offer this humble sacrifice to you.
The Beastmaster never felt like safe Hollywood fantasy. It looked like a PG adventure. But behind the sand and steel were real animals, real danger, and sets choked with smoke. Hidden inside are strange edits, risky stunts, and rumors that still divide fans. Today we'll uncover 13 bizarre facts, from a fake flying hawk to a cursed tiger legend.
See? R has spoken, he wants your children!
Fact 1. The hawk that refused to fly. The hero hawk of the Beastmaster looked fearless on screen, but in real life it had one big issue. It hated flying up. The bird would happily glide downward, but every time the trainers needed a dramatic takeoff, it simply refused. So the crew came up with a ridiculous solution that somehow worked. They placed the hawk inside a small cage, tied the cage to helium balloons, and floated it high into the sky. Once it reached the right height, they opened the door and let the bird glide out, giving the illusion of a powerful, heroic launch. That epic shot fans remember as movie magic was literally a balloon trick hanging in midair. And this wouldn't be the last time the production had to improvise under wild, risky conditions just to make the fantasy look believable. Fact 2. The Death Guard who couldn't see. On screen, the Death Guard looks like an unstoppable nightmare, all bone and black steel. But inside that mask was one terrified actor who could barely see. The helmet design looked great on camera, yet it had a brutal flaw. There were practically no eye holes. That meant every charge, every stumble, and every turn was done almost blind. To avoid smashing into walls, extras, or the camera, the actor would stretch his arms out in front of him, feeling his way through the chaos while trying to stay in character. The creepy, off-balance movements that make the Death Guard so unsettling are part performance, part pure survival instinct. It's the kind of design choice that looks genius in still photos and becomes dangerous the second someone has to move. And the set around him was about to get even more hostile, thanks to what they pumped into the air. Fact 3. The temple that turned into a smoke trap. The June Temple in the Beastmaster looks like a place built for human sacrifice, but filming there felt like punishment too. To make the rituals look real, the crew loaded the set with open flames and thick, oily torches. All that fire poured black smoke into a mostly closed space, and it didn't just drift away between takes. It clung to everything. Crew members started wearing breathing masks just to keep working. Actors didn't have that luxury, so makeup artists were constantly cleaning soot out of their nostrils and eyes before each shot. The eerie haze that makes the temple feel hellish on screen is literally the same haze everyone was choking on in real life. It's the kind of atmosphere you can't fake with a fog machine. And if the air was dangerous, the human stories hiding in the background of another village scene were just as unsettling. Fact 4. The village filled with real lost souls. In one of the Beastmaster's most emotional moments, Dar walks through a doomed village, past desperate faces who don't yet know they're marching toward tragedy. What you're not told is that many of those background faces weren't standard Hollywood extras. They were real homeless people, hired for the night at a very low daily rate just to fill the crowd. For production, or it was a harshly practical solution, they needed a village on a tight budget, fast. But when you rewatch the scene knowing that, the atmosphere hits differently. The fear, the exhaustion, the hollow stares suddenly feel a little too real, blurring the line between performance and reality. It's a brief moment where the fantasy world and the real world collide in a single shot. And the movie's strangest details don't stop with human faces. Some of the oddest secrets are hiding in tiny pieces of jewelry. Fact 5. The secret of the green rings. Tao and his people don't shout about their power. They wear it. If you freeze a few scenes and really look, you'll notice something strange. The members of his tribe almost all wear the same green ring, usually on the left hand. It's never explained in dialogue, but it wasn't random wardrobe. The idea behind the scenes was that those rings symbolized a kind of mystical connection, a silent pact tying Tao and his followers together like a hidden network. They're spiritual antennas more than jewelry, hinting that his people share knowledge and faith through something deeper than simple loyalty. Most viewers miss it entirely because the movie never zooms in and says, "Look at this." But once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And after those subtle magic trinkets, the story swings to the most chaotic props of all. Two ferrets who stole the movie for themselves. Fact 6. The ferrets that broke their own rules. Kodo and Podo weren't just comic relief. They were a logistical nightmare wrapped in fur. The production didn't rely on just two animals. There were many ferrets rotating through the role, so no single one got exhausted. Each had its own temperament. Some better at staying still, others better at scrambling into pockets or stealing the scene. On the soundtrack, though, the team decided real ferret noises weren't cute enough, so they dubbed in tiny squeaks that sound way more like mice than mustelades. And then there's the strangest twist. In the story, both ferrets are introduced as males, but at the end, one of them suddenly has babies. No explanation, nihum discurso mystico, just a furry plot twist that quietly ignores biology. It's a tiny, perfect example of how the film chooses charm over logic. And the next animal, Ally, wasn't cute at all. It was a painted predator. Fact 7. The panther that was really a painted tiger. Rue, Dar's sleek black panther, is one of the coolest images in the Beastmaster, but it's built on a lie. That big cat wasn't a panther at all. It was a Bengal tiger, carefully dyed black so it would pass on camera as a dark jungle predator. The decision gave the movie its iconic silhouette, but it also created one of its longest-running fan rumors. For years, people online have claimed that the tiger supposedly died slowly from skin problems and cancer caused by the dye. That story circulates at Tehoje, but it's important to leave this crystal clear. It's rumor, not confirmed fact. The director has said the dye used was non-toxic, and that the tragedy with one tiger was related to anesthesia during the coloring process, not poison paint. In other words, the internet turned a production risk into a darker legend than the movie ever intended. Fact 8. The day a tiger tested Marc Singer. Before Dar could stride across the desert with his animal allies, Marc Singer had to convince real predators not to rip him apart. At the Gentle Jungle facility, trainers lined up different tigers to audition with him. The idea was simple: walk side by side and see which cat stayed calm. One of them didn't get the memo. In the middle of a quiet stroll, the tiger suddenly turned, wrapped its jaws around Singer's leg, and just held it there. Trainers froze, gripping heavy sticks, waiting to see which way this moment would go. After a long, breathless pause, the animal slowly let go, as if deciding he wasn't worth the trouble. The tiger was politely rejected for the film, and they settled on a more serene partner. But that brush with teeth and instinct fits the movie perfectly, because the next creatures on set felt like pure nightmares. Fact 9. The winged nightmares, hidden in a PG fantasy. Right in the middle of the Beastmaster, the movie suddenly forgets it's supposed to be a safe PG adventure and drops Dar into pure nightmare territory. The winged devourers, those bat-like creatures that wrap victims in their wings and dissolve them into slime, feel like they wandered in from a horror film. There's almost no explanation for who they are or what they want. They just rise, judge, and erase people from existence, then mysteriously spare Dar. Fans have long pointed out how different this sequence feels from the rest of the movie, and some even speculate it's director Don Coscarelli sneaking his horror instincts into a film the studio wanted to sell to families. That part is just fan theory, not an official statement, but the vibe is undeniable. For a few minutes, the fantasy stops being heroic and turns disturbingly surreal, right before the real battle moves into the editing room. Fact 10. The movie that was quietly stretched in the edit. Don Coscarelli shot the Beastmaster with a faster, more aggressive rhythm in mind. But once filming wrapped, the real fight moved into the editing room, and he didn't win that one. As a young director up against producers and executives, he found himself slowly pushed out of the cut. Somewhere along the way, a decision was made that the film needed to feel bigger, not with new scenes, but by literally making the existing ones longer. The editor was instructed to hold shots for extra beats, extend reactions, and drag out transitions. Bit by bit, the lean, sharp version Coscarelli imagined turned into a slower, more drawn-out fantasy. If you've ever felt like certain moments in The Beastmaster linger just a little too long, that's not an accident. That's strategy. And the strangest part is that, after all that, the story itself would end up walking away from its own creator. Fact 11. The creator who sold his own legend. For all the wild animals and strange magic on screen, the most dramatic twist in The Beastmaster happened on paper. After the stress of production and the battles over the edit, Don Coscarelli eventually made a decision that changed the fate of the franchise. He sold his rights to the story and its characters. From that moment on, Dar no longer belonged to the man who first brought him to life. When Beastmaster 2, Beastmaster 3, and the TV series appeared, they came from other hands, guided mainly by producers who now controlled the property. That's why the sequels feel like they live in a parallel universe. Same hero, different soul. It wasn't a secret curse, just contracts doing what contracts do. The original film became the seed for a world its creator could only watch from the outside, while the movie itself kept quietly changing in another way. Fact 12. The 4K version that quietly changed the movie. When The Beastmaster finally got a deluxe 4K release, fans expected a simple cleanup of the movie they grew up with. Instead, they discovered something stranger. The original camera negative was gone, so the restoration team had to rebuild the film from secondary elements, frame by frame. That alone gives everything a slightly different texture. But the real surprise is what's hiding on the discs. There isn't just one cut, there are two. One preserves the theatrical version, the other slips in modern digital fixes, smoothing out rough shots like dusty transitions or obvious dummies in dangerous stunts. To casual viewers, it just looks better. To hardcore fans, it's almost like an alternate timeline where the old mistakes never happened. Depending on which version you watch, your memory of the Beastmaster might not match someone else's. And that leads straight into the strangest twist of all, our 13th weird fact. Fact 13. The hero sword that vanished into legend. Dar's weapon wasn't a toy. Behind the scenes, the main hero sword was a fully forged blade, heavy, sharpened, and built like a real piece of battlefield steel, not a hollow prop. Cast and crew treated it with the kind of respect you reserve for something that can absolutely ruin your day. Everyone assumed it would end up locked in a studio archive or displayed in some glass case once shooting wrapped. Instead, the story goes that when production ended, the sword was simply gone. No paperwork, no official handover, just a blade that walked off set and disappeared into private hands. Important note, there's no public record proving who took it or where it is. This survives as crew chatter and fan legend, not hard evidence. Somewhere out there, in a trunk, closet, or collector's stash, the Beastmaster's real sword might still be waiting, quietly rewriting its own myth. From balloon-lifted hawks to painted tigers, blind villains, missing negatives, and a sword that slipped into rumor, the Beastmaster feels less like a movie and more like a legend assembled by accident. Some of these tales are documented fact, others are fan whispers, but together they prove one thing. This weird desert fantasy refuses to ever truly die.